Mandeep, welcome to the show, sir. Let's get to Wednesday when we get those earnings from Nvidia after the closing bell. What's top of mind for you?
Well, so everything that we have heard so far this earnings season from the hyperscalers has been very constructive in terms of, raising the capex, model scaling laws still holding up. So that should translate into a significant beat and raise for Nvidia, as we have seen in the past 6 quarters. Now, with the change in administration, I think it's a positive for Nvidia in the sense that they are exposed to crypto and autonomous driving with Elon Musk's, involvement in the administration. So that should actually expand the addressable market for Nvidia. So net, I think we are in a much better spot when it comes to Nvidia visibility now than we were 90 days back. And hopefully that should translate into quite a bit of a beat and raise this quarter.
Mandeep, that might be going forward in terms of the policy shift and what might be the backdrop. But I just wonder, the beat and raise, I want to dig a little bit deeper into where it comes from. How much is it from the hyperscalers? Is it from the Googles? Is it the Microsofts? Or is it starting to broaden out? Do we need to see that broadening out in order for Nvidia to keep its gains?
Well, so you're right. I mean, Nvidia has a 40% plus revenue exposure to the 4 hyperscalers. And what each of them said, and I would quote, Sundar Pichai saying the 25% of the new code is written by AI now, and Mark Zuckerberg saying Meta Llama will be 10 times bigger, the next version of the model. Those are 2 very constructive data points when it comes to the overall market. And that is what gives everyone the optimism and visibility going into 2025. Now, still there are concerns about the 2026 number because the field of the companies that are training their large language models is narrowing. No one has the capex that these 4 companies have. And even if Apple and, Tesla are 2 of the incremental players, you still can see, 6 or 7 companies focusing on model training. But concentration is never good. At the same time, I think the scaling laws, as long as they hold, it's a big boost for a company like Nvidia.
When did the hyperscalers really reach the limit in how much they can expand in the United States? And I ask this because we started talking about policy mix. And there's a real question mark around national security and expanding some of those data centers overseas at a time where there have been restrictions on certain AI chips. And ultimately, those data centers in other countries could be considered exports of chips. At what point does that become a headwind to the likes of Nvidia?
Absolutely. I mean, that is a concern given, there is so much sensitivity around the training of these LLMs. And look, Elon Musk just set up a data center in Memphis where he has a cluster of 100,000 GPUs. That was built in a span of 20 days. Now, the question is, if the scaling laws were to hold, even a 100K cluster isn't enough. There will be a 200K cluster. Do we have enough power in the U.S. to supply that kind of data center? That is what seems to be the bottleneck, the power aspect of it. Now, I think it's the same outside the U.S. as well. But as long as, we keep talking about NVIDIA benefiting from more clusters, more chip demand, do we have sufficient power to pull up that kind of data center right now? And I think that's where there still is some uncertainty whether we have that sort of power availability.
Mandeep, Nvidia is huge, so we've all got exposure to it in one way or another. Can you help explain this story this morning from the information reporting that the chip maker is facing a design snag for the Blackwell chips? Just what is going on with them? Because we see that dropping in and out of the news repeatedly and shaking up this stock from time to time.
Yes, I mean, it happened, I would say 2 months back. The stock reacted negatively after earnings, but it's run up almost 40% since then. And the reason why investors remain optimistic about NVIDIA is because even if there are delays, those companies that are training their models have nowhere else to go. It's not as if NVIDIA is doing any better in terms of the training chips or Intel is doing any better. So still, NVIDIA is the only game in town. Even if that gets delayed by 3 months, so what? The companies will wait for it. So I think from that perspective, I don't worry about the delays or the snags that much because NVIDIA is so far ahead when it comes to the GPUs that they have developed versus everyone else right now.